Okay, testing that everything's fine. Seems yes. So the topic of today uh, is going to be the early stages of European art. Just give me a moment to put this where to control. The early stage of European art, and about mythology I will talk about the Bible. And I will start talking about the Bible first, because over all the art, especially not only in this what I will talk in this video, but later with Romanesque, Gothic, Renaissance, and Baroque, everything is Christian. So knowing about the Bible is basic for understanding this art. So just going to focus in the Bible, like the Old Testament and the New Testament. Going to start about that. So the Bible is a series of books from the Hebrews and the Christians. The Old Testament is about the things that happened before Jesus, and then the New Testament is the life of Jesus. I think for this is I'm going to Bible. I think this can be better. So I'm not just saying a list. Some moment I just thought in this now. Because it has many books. And it can be a bit abstract if I'm just saying it. Okay, this is what I wanted. Yes. So here you see these are all the books of the Old Testament. I focus in that first. The first 5 ones, these Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, are called the Pentateuch or Torah, the 5 books of Moses. So different stories. The most famous stories come from these books. So in Genesis, it is the creation, Adam and Eva, the story of Noé, Cain and Abel, the Tower of Babel, Abraham and his wives and children, the sacrifice of Isaac, Jacob or Israel, the story of Jacob, and the kidnapping of Jose to Egypt. Then Exodus is the story of Moses, who goes to Egypt to free the people of Israel, and then happened the 10 plagues of Egypt, all the miracles that Moses does, like the turning the water into blood or spreading the waters. So they cross, they leave Egypt, and then it happens the episode of the 10 Commandments. And then the next 3 are basically stuff that happens when they are in the desert. Things like with God saying the laws, or they are 40 years in the desert, and at the end is the death of Moses. Moses doesn't reach the promised land. It is the successors of Moses who first enter the promised land. So after this, the Pentateuch finishes. Then there are the historical books. You see this, the Pentateuch or the 5 books of Moses is this, and then the historical books are all these. So then there are with in Joshua there are episodes like the destruction of Jericho and wars in Israel, because God wants that the people conquer Israel, because in Israel there are other peoples that, according to God, they are not worth to live in Israel. So the people of Israel must conquer the land. Then in Judges it's basically wars and the story of Samson and Delilah. And then in Samuel, these are divided in two, but just telling the overall story. In Samuel, Samuel is a prophet. He is who says that David will be a very good king. And then there is a enmity between David and another man that is called Saul. That Saul was a previous king. He wanted to maintain himself in power, but David was going to be the king. So Saul wanted to kill David, but David was always forgiving these acts. At the end, Saul dies. Then also the episode of David and Goliath. David will be the best king of the Hebrews, and his son is Solomon. And it is also told about the arts of the alliance. I think that has another name in English, but it's these arts that saves the 10 amendments, the rules. I don't know how it's saying in English. This let me see this 10 commandments. Okay, and the other, the Ark of Covenant. So you know. Then in Kings, this is basically the story of King Solomon and how he built the temple of Solomon, to store the Ark of Covenant with the 10 Commandments. There's a lot of repeating of the story, a lot of God saying what to do, laws that God wants the others to obey. If you disobey God, you are going to die. In the Old Testament, God is kind of evil. For me, it's kind of evil because it's like you must follow God, and if you don't follow God, you will die. You cannot adore other deities, you cannot do anything. Just follow God and do what God says. If not, you die. So yes, about God and the wars, because also God wants wars, as God wants sacrifices of animals, and God is called Jehovah, by the way. So yes, he wants the Hebrews to conquer Israel. He wants bloody sacrifices, and if you don't follow or adore him, then he will be angry and you will die. It seems I'm saying this like exaggerating, but no, certainly not. If you read the Old Testament, it's all the time like that. Okay, now going to the wisdom books. Here, the story of Job. Job is the sad man, a man who loses everything and he's in disgrace, but at the end he has a good ending. Then these Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, these are basically like prayers, especially coming from David, supposedly. Yes. And then the prophets, you see major prophets, and then there are Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentation, Ezekiel, Daniel, and then 12 minor prophets, just all of these. As you can imagine, prophets are like telling prophecies, mostly about the coming of Jesus. Most important is this one, Isaiah. And then there are other episodes, like in Daniel, there is an episode about the lions. You can see here the picture, like he's thrown with lions to die, but he survives. And there is also one with fire, if I remember well. There's also an episode called Susanna and the Old Man, like she was going to be raped by an old man, but she's saved. Also interesting, this one, Jonah, because he's eaten by animal, I don't know the name in English, by a whale. My brain. Jonah is eaten by a whale, and he resurrects after 3 days. So it is like similar to the story of Christ, that he dies and then resurrects after 3 days. So this is basically what happens in the Old Testament. There is also some other books. It's called the Deuterocanonical books. These are basically books that in some versions they are not considered canon. So you see, like for example, in the Broad Bible, it has 24 books. The Protestant has 39, Catholic 46, Eastern Orthodox 49. So that is the meaning of the Deuterocanonical. So it's like Catholic has 46, and then the other 3 books are Deuterocanonical, not considered canon. Basically that. Okay, and now I'm going to the New Testament. New Testament is basically the story of Jesus Christ. That also it's called the Christ. Like Christ is a title. It's like Jesus the Christ, and Christ means like the Savior, the Messiah. So it's the life of Jesus, and then the epistles are the letters that the apostles do to other people, like to try to make them to follow the Christian religion. Let me see if there is here. Well, the Gospels. So here are the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Mark, the Gospel of Luke, and the Gospel of John. They all of them tell the same story, but like told a bit different. But it's mostly the same. Only the Gospel of John adds some extra things, and if I remember well, the Gospel of Luke is the longest and the best. Let me check my notes. Well, yes, they tell the same basically. Well, here you see the first 3 Gospels listed above classified as synoptic Gospels. They contain similar accounts of the event of Jesus' life and his teaching. The Gospel of John is structured differently and includes stories of several miracles of Jesus and sayings not found in the other 3. Just that. So a summary of the life of Jesus. The Annunciation to Virgin Mary is she's going to have a kid, and she's pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Then Jesus is born. The 3 kings go to visit him. There is the killing of the kids by King Herodes. Then Jesus is baptized by Saint John the Baptist. That is a different from this John. There is the John Evangelist and John Baptist. John Baptist is another character. And basically, Jesus is a divine doctor, because all the time in the life of Jesus, he's healing people all the time, doing miracles, but mostly healing people. And then it happens the Last Supper, the treason of Judas, the crucifixion, death, resurrection, and after Jesus is returned to heaven, supposedly, then the apostles are spreading the word of Jesus over the world. The apostles are the followers of Jesus, and they are 12. So here in the Acts of the Apostles is basically what the apostles do after the death and resurrection of Christ. And the epistles are the letters. There are many that are written by St. Paul. That's why it's called Pauline letters. And it's basically, as I said before, letters to certain people to spread the word of Jesus. And here there are other Pauline epistles, and here others. Epistle of the Hebrews, and then there are others like Epistle of James, Peter, John, Jude, and the last one is the Book of Revelation of the Apocalypse. The Apocalypse, the end of the world, you know. So I think that's basically the summary of the Bible. There are other books, like also I don't know if that's say the same in English. apocryphal gospels. There are some extra gospels that tell more stories about the life of Jesus, including some kind of evil deeds of Jesus. Like, for example, I remember a kid hitting Jesus by mistake, and then Jesus is like, "You die," and then the kid died. But then people get angry, and Jesus say, "Okay, I revive you," and then the kid is revived. So yes, and then more stories about the life of Jesus, like for example when Jesus is in the cross and this Roman soldier Longinus hit him. That happens in the apocryphal story about Mary, and so it's many things about that. And then others that I could mention is the golden, well, I don't know this, the gold, I don't know, the golden legend of Santiago de la Voragine. I don't know how to say in English, too lazy to search now, it's not that important. It tells the life of the saints and Christian martyrs. The golden, I just search like this and let's see, it's golden legend. I just get it like this, golden legend, and the Santiago de la Voragine. It's tells the life of saints and Christian martyrs. And a final one, the Summa Theologiae by St. Thomas Aquinas, a treatise of Christian teachings, philosophy. Just saying some stuff for you to know more about this. Summa Theologica, book by Thomas Aquinas, this. Okay. And just to show some kind of videos about stories, I'm not going to dedicate much more time to this, but I want at least to recommend two. There's a Prince of Egypt movie. It's this movie, I'm going to just play the trailer. It tells a story of Moses happening in the Exodus. I think it's very faithful, not totally faithful, but it's very faithful. And honestly, I enjoy it a lot because how it portrays the Egyptian environment. I think it's a very beautiful movie. I just play a trailer.
Hush now, my baby, be still, love, don't cry. Sleep as you're rocked by the stream.
Rescued from a river.
Come, Ramesses. We will show Pharaoh your new baby brother, Moses.
Second born, second place! Not for long!
Raised by royalty.
You are not a prince of Egypt.
What did you say?
Everything I am is a lie.
You are our son.
I can't stay here any longer. Moses, please.
Goodbye, brother.
The truth gave him the courage to do the impossible.
Abandon this futile mission, Moses.
DreamWorks Pictures presents a story for our time.
Look at your life through heaven's eyes.
A celebration of the human spirit.
And then about the life of Jesus, obviously there's this movie. I think it's very nice. I watched it many years ago. I have kind of good memory, but it's also a very hard movie to watch. Like the violence is very explicit. And just to finish talking about this and starting with art, I just want to say that reading the Quran after the Bible, you can understand better the Quran, because the Quran is, to summarize, the Quran is continuation of the Bible, where God is Allah and is the most important, and it focuses again in the figure of God or Allah. Like in the Old Testament, the main protagonist is God and the people are his servants. Then in the New Testament, the main character is Jesus, and then in the Quran, the main character is again God, in this case Allah. And it is said also that Jesus Christ is not the Son of God, that it's just another prophet. So just take that into consideration, because it's good to read the Quran after Bible. You can understand it better. And with that being said, I start with the art. So Paleochristian art. I already did the presentation. For these videos, I'm going to do it like this to speed the time. Well, here is the PDF, just to show more pictures, because in here I don't show all the pictures. So here just some iconography: Adam and Eva, Cain and Abel, Noé, sacrifice of Isaac, the good shepherd, Jonah, 3 Jews in the oven, the resurrection of Lazarus, when Christ resurrects Lazarus, the healing of the paralytic, again a miracle of Jesus, this sarcophagi. Okay. Paleochristian art. About the Paleochristian art, it is the art that develops during the 5th, 6th centuries after the rise of Christianity. The peace of the church, also known as the Edict of Milan, was given in 313, when the freedom of religion in the Roman Empire was established, ending the persecutions. The Edict of Thessalonica, established in 380, made the Christian religion the official one. Here is the map. In the map, I just put this map because it shows what happened with the Roman Empire. So it divided in two. This is the Western Empire, and here the Eastern Empire. Here's Rome, and here Byzantium, that later will be Constantinople. I just hope the audio is going. There is no interruptions. Okay. Yes. Just in case I'm not hearing myself. First chapter, the legacy of the Roman Empire. 4 tetrarchs represents Diocletian, Maximian, Galerius, and Constantius Chlorus, the rulers of the Tetrarchy in Rome in the end of the 3rd century. The sculptures are all the same. They represent a symbol of authority and power. You see, they wear military clothes. So when the empire was divided, there were 4 capitals, and I think this is the first. I think these 4 are the 4 capitals that these emperors ruled. I don't remember very well, but I think yes. So it's like in the Western Empire, 2 of them ruled, and the Eastern, 2 of them ruled. So in total there are 4 emperors, because the empire was so big that they couldn't control all the territories very well. And you see here other peoples like trying to get into the Roman Empire and conquer land. Aurelian walls of Opus Destaceum brick. It was ampliated and were added windows designed to protect the walls in the interior. Via Sacra between the arches of Titus and Septimius Severus. Here is where was the Basilica of Maxentius. So the Tetrarchs, the Aurelian walls. This is the Via Sacra with the 2 arches. Via Sacra. This is the Basilica of Maxentius. Basilica of Maxentius. This is a reconstruction of the interior. In the interior, it was the Colossus of Constantine, as it will appear later. Temple of Romulus. He was the lost son of Maxentius, and this temple was dedicated to him. Temple of Venus and Roma stand out the chapels for cult. It has reconstructions by Maxentius and Constantine. So this is the Temple of Romulus, Temple of Venus and Roma. See more pictures. The Basilica of Maxentius. A reconstruction, Atrium Vestae. I think maybe I should put a picture of this in the PowerPoint. Let me see, I forgot that one. I'm going to put one. Just a moment. I'm going to put this one. And just a moment to write this in here. Okay. Temple of Romulus, Temple of Venus and Roma, and now the arch. Arch of Triumph of Constantine. This arch has 3 spans. The sculptures tell the military acts of Constantine, included when he defeated Maxentius in the Battle of Milvius Bridge. That is a very important battle, because in that battle he used a kind of Christian standard, because he dreamt with a victory rated with Christianity, and this is how at the end he won in the Battle of the Milvius Bridge. Maybe I can find some kind of picture. Just some representation. It's like he dreamt with something Christian, and then in the bridge they used a Christian standard, and at the end they won. Something like that. It's a interesting episode. The Arch of Triumph of Constantine. And here the Colossus. Colossus of Constantine. This big, amazing giant statue was initially Maxentius, but Constantine modified it. It was very, very big, and it was in the Basilica of Maxentius. Ark of Janus, art with 4 spans. It originated as a middle barber vault. Temple of Minerva Medica, central plant, opus testaceum, buttress, and counterfort to support the weight. Temple of Minerva Medica. You see here the parts of the sculpture. Arch of Janus, Temple of Minerva Medica, and then at the end, Hippodrome of Constantinople. It was built next to the Imperial Palace and happened, and chariot races happened. Here are the obelisk of Theodosius, the obelisk of Constantine, and the serpent column. Burnt column of Constantine is what only remains of the Forum of Constantinople. It was brought from Rome. Up there was a statue of the emperor as Helios, although under it there were Christian relics. So the obelisk and the columns. Later in the Byzantine, in the Byzantine presentation, I will show more close-up picture of this, as this hippodrome will appear again, and this is the burnt column. Well, here I think it appears. You see the Theodosius obelisk, the serpent column, and the Constantine obelisk. This is the burnt column. Here are representation. Okay. Second chapter, consular diptych. After the Edict of Thessalonica, the emperors wanted to be represented as saviors of Christianity. Due to the terror to idolatry, they didn't do sculptures in the round, but they did reliefs. A lot of pagan iconography was taken to be part of Christian symbolism, like the Moschophoros to be the shepherd, the Cupids to be angels, and such. Remember what I said before, that in the Old Testament, God didn't want others to adore to other gods and other things like statues or animals or whatever. So this is why there is this terror to idolatry. Here it's going to be diptychs. Diptychs and triptychs is this kind of sculptures, consular diptychs. Stylical diptychs. The emperor has a mappa in his hand, thing that was true in the beginning of spectacles. Christian symbols over there. Nikomachis, Simachi diptychs, the pagan representation are due to the tensions between religions. It represents a libation in an altar. Libation is like throwing a liquid in an altar, mostly wine or water. Rufius Provianus diptychs represents a Roman vicar and throne representation. Appear with a letter. He appears with a letter dictating the rules. Here you see Stylical diptychs, Nikomachis, Simachi diptychs, Rufius Provianus diptychs. Pyx, small round container used in the Catholic, Old Catholic and Anglican churches to carry a consecrated host, Eucharist. The Pyx is this. And then diptychs of Probus, you can see the Emperor Honorius as Thoracato. Thoracato is with the armor, as defender of the Christianity. The standard has a message saying, in Christ's name, you will always win. Sentence related to the Battle of the Milvius Bridge between Constantine and Magnentius. There is a Nike with a laurel. Nike is the Greek victory. You see here. Barberini diptychs. In the center, you see the triumphant emperor as Thoracato, again with the armor. Christian symbols are represented in better and free way. Up is the celestial emperor, Christ with angels, and in the sides the Alpha and Omega. Down are the barbarians giving gifts to the emperor. They are the imperial kings, same as the kings giving gifts to Christ. Missorium of Theodosius I, commemorative deeds appear. Theodosius appears giving a text to other character. His sons are in the sides and soldiers, frontalines and sides hierarchy. Below there is a representation of abundance and prosperity. The cornucopia, horn of plenty, is with the little arrows, cupids, or in this case, speaking about Christian symbolism, little angels. So this is the Missorium of Theodosius. Going to advance in here. Okay, funerary art. It is important to see the difference between necropolis and cemetery. The Christians do not create necropolis, city of the dead. They create cemeteries where the people is sleeping, so it's a place to rest meanwhile they go to the heaven in the afterlife. Also, they do not do rich tombs, so the funerary methods are simple. We're talking about early Christians, remember. Tropaion. This is a tomb of Saint Pietro, or Saint Peter, who died martyrized, and his follower built a commemorative building. So this is this, Tropaion. Cella Trijora. These cellas are chapels to bury. Trijora is of 3 apses, but can be Dijora or of 2 apses, or Tetrachora of 4 apses. The Cella Trijora of Pex and the Cason de Jumilla are examples. Just Cella Trijora. You see 3 apses, 1, 2, 3. Martyrium of La Alberca. A martyrium is a monumentalized funerary construction dedicated to a martyr, that is, someone who died in name of the Christian religion. The cubiculum inferius is the tomb floor and is where is the tomb itself. The cella superior is the floor in the ground and is where there were ceremonies and libation in honor to the deceased. The richest who build the buildings usually are buried with a martyr. This is called inhumatio ad sanctos, and this is to be solved easily. I think to be solved easier. Finally, the called Fenestella Confessionis is a window used to see the deceased by the visitors from outside. Other martyriums are the martyrium of Saint Anastasius and the martyrium of Pex. So this is a martyrium. Catacombs. The catacombs are well known. Usually it's known that the catacombs exist because the Christians were pursued, but they built it because the price of the ground was very high. Although it is true that they were pursued. Some destacable catacombs are the ones in Naples or Pristile. They buried the people in arcosoliums. I'm going to delete this. Actually, I'm going to correct this test. They buried the people in arcosoliums, rectangular area covered with a quarter sphere dome called lunette, with paintings. You will see this better in a moment. The lucernariums were light holes. You can see some paintings as the three used in the oven, Daniel and the lions, the god Sepher, Jonah, the family of Adam and Eve, cure of paralytic, just the same Christian scenes that I saw in the beginning. So this catacombs of Rome, catacombs of Priscilla. This is the arcosolium, you see with these arts. And catacombs of Comodilla, and here paintings. Catacomb biblical paintings, so Adam and Eve, the cure of paralytic, the great Sepher, Jonah, and I think this was the family of Adam, or the family of Abraham, the family of Abraham, like I suppose this is Jacob and Isaac. The sarcophagus as the great represent. Well, before continuing, I continue this a moment. Tropaion, Stella Trihora, you see here the base or drawings. Stella Trihora of Pex, Cason de Jumilla, and then Martyrium, Stella Superius, Cubiculum Inferius, Catacombs, different paintings is Noé, the Daniel and the lions, this sacrifice of Isaac, this the three used in the oven, Reserver, cure of paralytic, and here the sarcophagus. Sarcophagus are the great representation of sculpture in this period because there are reliefs. Remember, they had terror to idolatry. This is why there are sculptures in the round yet. A few things about vocabulary. There are three ways that Jesus Christ cures. Ad locutio is by words, impositio manum is by touching, virga thaumaturgica is with a wand. The scenes in the sarcophagus are the same ones as the ones in frescoes. You see, for example, this one here is using a wand. So that is the virga thaumaturgica. Okay, continuing. Sarcophagus of Procens. You see some cubits with an epitaph and cornucopias. Sarcophagus of Via Salaria. You see the god Sepher, among other scenes, the Church 8. Sarcophagus of Jonah, different scenes, but the main one is the tale of Jonah and the monster. Sarcophagus of Procens, sarcophagus of Via Salaria, and sarcophagus of Jonah. This one here, you can see the serpent that is supposedly to be the whale in here. Dogmatic sarcophagus or Trinity sarcophagus. There are a lot of scenes here you can recognize by knowing Christian iconography. Maybe I should do well. This is instruction for the video. What you have to know basically here is the introduction of the concord. That is the scene in that circular form that means the love between two persons, but not in a carnal love, so it can be between two persons of the same sex and family. It's this circle, and it will appear later in another one. Sarcophagus of the two brothers, use the same as the previous one. Just the same as the previous one, and you see the same two brothers with the family love. And sarcophagi de la Passione. What is important here is the division of the scenes between architectural spaces up and vegetal spaces down. You see columns dividing the space up and trees down. And I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to change this a little bit. I have the space here. Oops, one moment. Okay. Sarcophagus of Junius Bassus, consular production. This is a very amazing sarcophagus because the lot of sculptures it has. It's just that just sarcophagus of Stilicon. About this sarcophagus, I have to say that is a city gate sarcophagus. A city gate sarcophagus because you see the city in the back. This is the Junius Bassus and sarcophagus of Stilicon. Oh, yes. Okay. I continue with this. The Dogmatic, Two Brothers, La Passione, Junius Bassus. More closer, you see the sculptures are really nice with this architectural design. And this is the city gates sarcophagus. Also very nice sculptures. The representation, well, religious art. This chapter is going to be, there are going to appear a lot of churches that are rebuilt, but it's like in the past, the base is Paleochristian. At the beginning, there were no churches or basilicas. There were the called Domus Ecclesiae, as the Christians couldn't practice their religion openly. The Domus Ecclesiae was like a normal house. Later will appear the basilicas. Domus Ecclesiae of Dura Europos, an example of Domus Ecclesiae. The rest are a series of basilicas that are examples of this construction, except the two mausoleums, very important ones. Of course, the basilicas are restored, but the plant is original. So in this presentation, I didn't really add money, just because that reason. Domus Ecclesiae of Dura Europos. Mausoleum of Constanza is the mausoleum of the wife of Constantine next to the Basilica of Saint Agnes. Mausoleum of Galla Placidia, very important building, cruciform and made of bricks, stand out the mosaic decorations. Mausoleum of Constanza, Mausoleum of Galla Placidia. Instead of explaining every basilica, I will explain the general parts of the basilicas. Catechumen, these are the persons who are going to transform to Christianity. They have to take a bath in the baptismal font. So here, Basilica of Aquileia. Usually the basilicas are of 3 naves, due to the Trinity being the central one the biggest, but also exist of more, like 5 naves. That is due to the amount of people. The right nave is called Epistle and the left nave is called Gospel. In one were the men and in the other the woman, or woman could be sometimes in a place called Matroneo, but it was unusual. The altar is in the presbytery. The basilicas were perfumed with incense, semicircular arches and covered ceiling to decrease the weight. Church of Nativity, you see these pictures are like very old. Church of San Clemente, it's very old on purpose, and that's all. In this PDF I'm going to show more so you can see the rebuild, but as I say, it's not really Paleochristian, obviously. So you see Santa Maria Maggiore, this is Renaissance, obviously. This is the Aquileia, Treverist, Romanesque, Apostoleion. Here you see different shape of the plant. This is the Greek cross plant. You see, if it is the other one, this one will be longer, but this is like perfect cross, so it's like the Greek cross. San Babila, this is also Renaissance, I think. Nativity, it's the one I put pictures. San Pedro of Vatican, this is Baroque, obviously, and I didn't even put pictures. Santa Maria Foris Portas. This one, it will appear later in Prerromanesque. This is Prerromanesque. San Clemente, this looks Renaissance. These altars, Piero Poyetto, Santa Sabina, And here the mausoleums, the interior of the mausoleum, Gala Placidia. The Mosel Carida. I think Gala Placidia. This, I'm going to put this. Another picture. That picture is beautiful, so I'm going to put that one. Churches. Let me find it quickly. This. Okay, so in this I have to put Motion of Gala Placidia 2. And that's all. Paleochristian is finished. So I'm going for the Byzantine now. Okay, Paleochristian finished. Byzantine. How long is the string going? Okay, not even 1 hour. It is going to open it. Or it's bugged. I think it's bugged. It happened to me other times also. I have a feeling that the stream is going to be paused because of this. Yes, give me a moment to try to see if I can make it work. Okay. Byzantine art. The relocation of the capital to Constantinople and the division of the Roman Empire are two fundamental facts of Western art history. The Roman art, when it has contact with Eastern and Hellenic elements, it transforms. The importance of Byzantium is enormous, both for their own artistic creation and for being transmitting of the Eastern Christianity. In it receives the dome decoration, monumental decoration carved in two planes, a taste for the grandiose proportions, luxury, and a large number of iconographic themes. In Byzantine art, there are three periods. The first is from the time of Emperor Justinian, the 6th century. The second is after the iconoclastic crisis and is the best in creation of iconographic themes, 9th to 12th centuries. And the last is a rebirth from the 14th century, which is truncated by the capture of Constantinople by the Turks in 1453, but continues to persist in the following centuries in Orthodox countries. So here the same map as before. So before I was talking about the western part, and now I'm going to talk about the eastern part. And I'm going to open the PDF. One moment. San Basil the Great, this Pseudo Dionyso Areopagita, these two persons are telling kind of philosophy for the Byzantine ideals. There's a lot of text, a lot of things to tell, but don't worry, it will be step by step. So starting with architecture. The Byzantine architecture appears already formed in the 6th century in times of Justinian. Its features are the use of the dome on pendentives with receipts from the east and brick as a building material. The column has cubic capitals in an inverted pyramid form, with vegetal decoration and strong effects of lighting. Constantinople. Walls of Constantinople, 3 defensive lines with pits and circular, quadrangular, and pentagonal towers. Basilica Cistern. It is a water tank configured as a columns forest. Hippodrome of Constantinople was built next to the imperial palace and chariot races happened. Here are the obelisks of Theodosius, the obelisk of Constantine, black, and the serpent columns before. So the walls of Constantinople, Basilica Cistern, Hippodrome of Constantinople with serpent column, and here the 2 obelisks. First period, the first and most important churches. Church of St. Sergius and Bacchus. This church is also called the Little Hagia Sophia due to that it was just an experiment to the later Great Hagia Sophia. The weight rests on a discharge system through more domes and side niches. Space on 2 floors highlights the interior decoration. This small church. Going to progress in this. The cistern. See wall of columns. Then the hippodrome. The temple. Here this. Hagia Sophia, square plant with a large central dome of pendentives drilled at the bottom with windows that produce a luminous effect. The dome rests on 4 arches supported in turn by 4 pillars. 2 half domes make buttress of the central domes and open walls are insured by buttresses. It also has some beautiful mosaics. The beauty of this building, says Procopius, is because the harmony. The decoration looks forward to seeing the Celestial Jerusalem, or of the Apocalypse of San John. Celestial Jerusalem is like a celestial city or celestial or heavenly city. So Hagia Sophia, remember that as they were conquered by Turks, then the inside is Muslim. It has Muslim decoration because it was transformed into a mosque. So Hagia Sophia, more pictures. Inside. This picture of the inside is really wonderful. Okay. Hagia Irene is covered by a dome and equipped with 2 domes, culminating in the east side with 3 large windows with arched open point in the axis. San Vitale, octagonal plan construction made with brick. The most important of this building is the interior decoration. I will let this. Hagia Irene and San Vitale. Saint Apollinaris in classe, basilical plan, 3 naves divided by arcades, decoration with mosaics. Saint Apollinaris Nuovo, the same as the previous. Saint Catherine's Monastery, it is in Mount Sinai, and the most important about this place is the decoration. Yes, here I'm just showing the buildings. The decoration will appear later. Saint Apollinaris in classe, Saint Apollinaris Nuovo, and Saint Catherine's Monastery. This one has very high quality paintings. Second period, utilization of dome on drum. St. Andrew, I have not found much information about this one. What is important here are the mosaics. Agia Theotokos, Greek cross brand, dome on the crease and others, smaller in the arms of the cross, preceded by a portico, also with domes. Daphne Monastery near Athens is a basilica with dome of squinches rather than on pendentives. St. Andrew, here the paintings. I don't know if this is the real St. Andrew, but this is important anyway. I think this is rebuilt. It looks so new. Hagia Theotokos, Daphne Monastery. Basilica of Saint Mark in Venice. It is built on the model of the Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, with the novelty of adding at the foot a dome portico. Saint Sophia of Kiev, rectangular plan with naves ending in 2 apses. From this moment, the Russian art will remain tributary of the Byzantine art. Basilica of Saint Mark in Venice. Saint Sophia of Kiev. Third period. News here are mostly in decoration. New things here are mostly in decorations. Church of the Holy Apostles. It is in Thessaloniki. 5 dome cross in a square with 4 supporting columns. It also features an artist with a U-shaped peristome, an ambulatory with galleries, with small dome at each corner. There are also 2 small side chapels to the east. Nice decoration. Church of the Holy Apostles. Saint Sophia of Novgorod, this is Russia. 5-dome church. It is the oldest cathedral of Russia. We can begin to speak about Russian art here. Hagia Irene, this interior, San Vital, the interior, Apolinar in clase. Interior in the other presentation will appear later. San Apolinar Nuovo. Here more, decoration, Santa Catalina del Sinaí. San Sophia of Novgorod, and sculpture. Christianity began being aniconic. They used the imperial language in the iconography, Christ as an emperor. The relics are sacred, they cure. Yes. The Acropoietas images are the ones not made by man hand, like the Mandylion or the portrait of the Virgin. There was an iconoclast problem. Iconodulia is when you agree the veneration of image. To venerate is cult to what the image represents. It's different to adulate, that is cult to the image as object, and that is idolatry. I hope you can understand this well because it's a bit complex to explain. When you venerate, the cult is to what the image represents. So if the image represents Jesus, you venerate the Jesus. But the difference is with adulate. Adulates the cult to the image as object. So it's in a portrait of Christ, if you venerate what is represented, that is the Christ, then you venerate Christ. But you can also venerate the object itself, and that is idolatry. You can venerate the painting of the Christ, not the Christ. And that was the problem. That's why they didn't create statues, and this is also why in Islam they also don't create sculptures or painting of Muhammad and such, because this fear of idolatry. Because if you create a statue of the Virgin Mary, for example, you can venerate the statue because it represents Virgin Mary, but what you are venerating is Virgin Mary. Or you can venerate the sculpture of Virgin Mary at the object, as if the sculpture is a sacred object. And that is idolatry. I hope the explanation is good enough. Iconoclast is to destroy images, and iconides without representation. Virtus is the divine power to live of the images. Transitus is the path that the praise follow to get to the character Christ or Virgin. Imago is cult image, and Historia is narrative image. The image is good because it educates, it remembers the saints to the faithful, and is honor to the saints. Against it, the Bible says that it's forbidden to represent, and that Jesus has 2 parts, human and divine, and just human can be represented, so the representation is incomplete. Fear of idolatry. Iconomachy is fight between iconodulio and iconoclast. First, there was favor of images with Justinian II, adding the face of Christ in the coins. Then Leo III and Constantine V forbid the images. Irene, wife of Leo IV, restabilized the images. Later, Leo V forbids images again. Finally, the Feast of Orthodoxy by Theodora Michael III makes that images come back. Day of Orthodoxy. Finally, to add the word. Finally, the word is the important issue. An example: you see 2 statues of a beautiful woman, the same one. One is called Virgin, other Venus. The statue with the name of Virgin is sacred just for that. The Libri Carilini only recognizes Eucharisty as representation of Christ. And to end and to finish, in year 1000 begins the conversion to the images. The Byzantine sculptures are scarce. The best preserved examples are the reliefs of small ivory plates. The sculptures in the round are almost inexistent due to fear of idolatry. Throne of Maximian of Ivory with some reliefs. It was the throne of the Archbishop Maximian. Steatite plate of Toledo from the 9th century. In the second period, the iconography is enriched with new compositions of the evangelical cycle, the life of the Virgin, the consecration of the Emperor, and the cycle of the 12 feasts. The steatite has soft and easily cut stone found worldwide. Triptychs of Romanos IV and Eudoxia. Of Ivory appears the Savior crowning these two persons. Savior appears crowning these two persons. Here, Throne of Maximian, Steatite plate of Toledo, and Triptych of Romanos IV and Eudoxia. Ivory panel of Thessaly, of Ivory, and seems the Virgin with a child and saints surrounding them. It seems Saint Peter and Saint Mark. It is Peter dictating the Gospel to Mark. Virgin Hagioritisa, a relief showing a kind of icon. The Hagioritisa icon is an iconographic type in which the Virgin is depicted nearly in profile with both her hands extended out from her chest in prayer. Ivory panel of Thessaly, Saint Peter and Saint Mark, and Virgin Hagioritisa. Saint Demetrios from the 14th century, diptychs unknown of Ivory maybe. I see various scenes, including the Passio Christi. There are diptychs of Passio Christi. I'm going to write. Triptychs of Aerobindu, not sure if it's this one. I found few images are different. Unsure of this one. Triptych of Arbaville represents Christ in majesty flanked by the Virgin Mary and Saint John Baptist. In this scene appears the apostles James, John, Peter, Paul, and Andrew. On the sides of the roundels are representing several saints. Ivory. Saint Demetrios, diptych of Passio Christi. You see here. Here is with a cross. And here, well, you see. Triptych of Aerobindu, supposedly. Triptych of Arbaville, supposedly also. Okay. Saving. Mandilion. Okay, now. Iconographic programs. Here, more theory about the paintings. Theory of light. Light wants to evocate the celestial Jerusalem. Mix of Greek, harmony and beauty of the elements as a whole, and Hebrew, beauty of the individual light. Elements. Saint Basil, beauty is harmony and composition. Plotinus, elements as individual. All with Christian finality is beautiful. Imperfect man, perfect God. Pencalia, all is beautiful. Symbolism and theocentrine. So that is the painting of Saint Basil. And Pseudo Dionisio Aeropagita says that all is beautiful. That says all that is beautiful is good. The world takes the divine beauty. Beauty is harmony and light. Cult to images because it is a transit to know God. To study the religious iconography, first have to identify the image, then the scene where it is, and finally the cycle to that to. I need to correct this. The cycle to what that scene belongs. Acropolletas not made by man hand. Mandilion is the cloth where Christ impressed his face. It is said too that Saint Luca painted the Virgin. Conventionalism golden background for celestial light, tables with a framework, and Gwenis. when there is the divinity attacks it, an illusion that is the icon who sees you, virgin with red, incarnation, Emporium of 3 stars, Trinity, Pantocrator as emperor with a letter and blessing, archangels. I'm going to add a couple pictures here. The Mandilion and the San Luca painting the Virgin, I'm going to add them. Just give me a second. Byzantine. So let me search. Let me find it. This Mandilion, Luca. And Luca painting the Virgin. You see, so it's painting the Virgin. I'm going to add this at the end. Okay. Pantocrator. Jesus Christ, maestious, omnipotent, and powerful, with beards, there appears in cruciferous nimbus. Left hand is holding the Gospels, with the other hand blesses using the Trinitarian formula. 3 fingers together, used in the West, opposite to the Oriental custom of bringing together 2 fingers as reaffirmation of the dual nature of Christ. Crucifixion represented with 4 nails and with open eyes as proof that God is alive. You see? Pantocrator and crucifixion with 4 nails, not 3. Trinity, the problem is to represent God. Christ is a man and the Holy Spirit is a dove, but there wasn't a representation for God. They started to represent God as a hand in the sky, Dexter a day, or an eye. Soon the theophany of Mamre, 3 angels that came to Abraham to say him that he was going to have a son with his wife Sarai, being both old, became into the Trinity. This is Christ on the cross, crucifixion, or in the heavenly throne, Pantocrator, flanked by the Virgin and Saint John the Baptist, who intercedes for humanity. Trinity and the Sis. Virgin. There are several ways to represent the Virgin. Kyriotissa, the Virgin is the throne of a child that is blessing, no interaction between the mother and the son, Geratis. Theotokos, similar to Kyriotissa, but the relationship between mother and son begins, usually offers some symbolic object, usually offering some symbolic object, apple, new egg, globe, omnipresence of Christ, or flower, fertility. Virgin Kyriotissa, Virgin Theotokos. Odegetria points out the baby with the right hand as path to salvation. Eleosa are divided in 3. The mother is interacting with the son. Glycopilosa, funeral sense, the faces of mother and son are together, but the sad eyes of the Virgin presage the fate of his son. Galactotroposa, the Virgin breastfeeding the child, and Blacherniothesia, the sisters with arms in prayerful attitude, some as circles in her womb, with this the child. Virgin Odegetria, Glycopilosa, Galactotroposa, and Blacherniothesia. Ubication in the temples. The Pantocrator is in the central dome with the Tetramorphos, the four evangelists, Matthew, Angel, Luca, Bull, Mark, Lion, and John, Eagle. The Virgin is in the central apse that can even symbolize Bethlehem, Belen. In the lateral walls are characters that are prefiguration of Christ in the Old Testament, like Adam, Abel, Melchizedek, Abraham. In the lateral apses, there are scenes related with the sacrifice to God, like the sacrifice of Isaac, for example. In the central nave, In the central nave, there are representations of the great feasts of the Christian liturgy: Advent, Christmas, Lent, Easter. In the lateral naves, you could find martyrs, saints, bishops, prophets, distributed hierarchically. The closer to the altar, the greatest importance of devotion. Finally, in the narthex appears scenes from the life of the Virgin, coming mainly from the apocryphal Gospels. Can be included the final judgment. It can be included the final judgment. Okay, then the last part. Here, Pantocrator, Crucifixion, Trinity, Desis, Heliotisia, Theotokos, Odegetria, Glycopilosa, Galactotroposa, Blacherniotesia. Here, mosaic and painting. The mosaic is more important than painting. Liturgic character, paintings scarce. The iconographic problem, character, more information, character. Okay. I'm going to delete all this. The emperors as saints. It is a political interpretation. They say that as the first terrestrial emperor Augustus ruled in the times of Christ, celestial emperor, it was something like a miracle. The power of the emperor comes from God. He is the maximum military authority. Due to that there isn't any leader for the church, the leader is the emperor. There are some differences between a normal Western king and the Eastern Byzantine emperors. The confrontation began when Empress Irene writes to the Pope, but not to Charlemagne, so he is angry. Later, when the Pope crowns Charlemagne emperor, he said him to marry with Irene, but she doesn't want because for her, Charlemagne is a false emperor. The portraits of the Western kings are about the nobility, royalty, the divinity isn't there. In the portraits of the Eastern emperors, the divinity always appears, and even the woman had very luxury representation, not as the Western queens, that they were there just to have childs. Madaba is a map. There are represented cities of the Mediterranean seas. Mosaics of Hagia Sophia, Pantocrator, mosaic of the Komnenos, it is the Virgin with the child and John II Komneno, an emperor, the woman can be his wife. Mosaic of the Empress Zoe appears the Pantocrator with Constantine IX and Zoe. Mosaic of the Imperial Door appears with the Emperor Leo VI before Christ. Mosaic of one entrance appears Constantine giving to the Theotokos a model of Constantinople, and Justinian gives her a model of Hagia Sophia. You will see now. Pantocrator, mosaic of Emperor Komnenos, mosaic of Empress Zoe, mosaic of Emperor Leo VI before Christ, and mosaic of Constantine and Justinian with Theotokos. So they are giving the models. Mosaics of San Vital. Appears the Pantocrator crowning San Vital with military clothes in left. The Archangels Gabriel and Michel are there. In the right side is the Archbishop Maximian. Appears Justinian with the paten with bread. That is the Eucharist, and appears to the dignitaries and appears. This is so bad written. In the right side is the Archbishop Maximian. Justinian appears with the paten with bread, and also appear the dignitaries. Theodora appears his wife, that has the goblet of wine, symbol of Eucharist, about Eucharist. About the mosaics of Justinian and Theodora is worth to say that the clothes have that color because it was a very expensive color. Pantocrator of San Vital, here Justinian and Theodora. San Apollinaris in classe, portrait of San Apollinaris, the abse with a cross. San Apollinaris Nuovo, martyrs, the three kings that give gifts to the child Christ. The north side of the central nave showing scenes of the life of Christ, the martyrs, the three kings, and Theotokos. Sí, San Apollinaris in classe, San Apollinaris Nuovo. Saint Catherine's Monastery, Pantocrator, Crucifixion, Eucharist, Encaustic. Daphne Monastery, Christ, Transfiguration on Mount Tabor, Basilica of Saint Mark, Interior Domes, the Apostles, Dome of the Narter, Tale of Moses, Portal of Saint Alipio, Cephalou Cathedral, Pantocrator, Osios Loukas, Pantocrator, Arian Baptistry, the building, the baptisms, and apostles. You see here, Pantocrator, the crucifixion, and this was the encaustic. These are Theotokos. Daphne Monastery, Basilica of Saint Mark, Cephalou Pantocrator, Osios Loukas Pantocrator, Arian Baptistry, the baptism of Christ. Saint Sophia of Kiev, Annunciation, Basil of Caesarea, Christ, Mater Theu, Pantocrator and Tetramorphos, Virgin and the Child, the Evangelist St. Luca, and Moscow Trinity. It is the representation of the Trinity by the Theophany of Man Ray, three angels that came to Abraham to say him that he will have a son with his wife Sarai, although they were very old. Saint Sophia of Kiev, Evangelist St. Luca, Moscow Trinity. Peribleptos, Vienna Genesis, an illustrated book, and Rosanna Gospel, illustrated Gospels. And it's finished. Let's see if I can show more pictures in this. Linian, Theodora, San Apolinar. Here more close-ups. Three kings. Okay. And the last one was to the Prerromanesque. Okay, again this problem. No idea why it happens. Okay, I'm going to drink some water. Give me a few minutes of break. Okay, I'm back. So pre-Romanesque art. The pre-Romanesque period, which extends between the 5th century to 9th century, is considered divided into two periods. The first corresponds to the 8th century, bounded by the Muslim invasion and the beginning of the reign of Carlemagne. This is what the art of the barbarians established in the western province of the Roman Empire. The second period started in France with the Carolingian Renaissance, with links to the first Romanesque art in Catalonia, France, and Italy, and the art of the Asturian kingdom in Castile. So some maps. And let's start. One moment, I open the PDF. Merovingian art. So it is going to be a succession of the different peoples and what art they made. The Merovingian constructions were almost fully destroyed. Their churches were similar to the Roman basilicas. Also, there are crypts and baptisteries. The most sorry. The most important characteristic of the Merovingian architecture is the use of basilican plan with triple head, transept, and narthex. The Church of Saint Victor of Marseille is very important due to its content. Church of Victor of Marseille. The crypts are a great testimony of the Merovingian art. The Merovingian decoration is amazing in the crypt of Poiré. A baptistery is a building in these times built outside the church to give the baptisms to the faithful. This is a baptistery, and the crypt of Poiré is this one. It's a baptistery in the exterior. About sculpture is scarce, standing out two sarcophagi. The jewelry is very important in all the barbarian cultures in Middle Ages. The jewelry is something destacable due to the extravagance and richness. About manuscripts, they were gospel or sacramentarians, books of praise. And I want to say, I'm calling them barbarians, but this is the Roman, the name that the Roman gave to them. Barbarians is like they don't speak the same language as the Romans, so that's why they're called barbarians. So I'm not meaning barbarians as savages. It's just for the context of the story and such. You understand me? Sarcophagus of Bishop Algilberto and sarcophagus of Theodokilda. Treasure of Gourdon, treasure of Childerico, and here some manuscripts. Lectionary of Luxeuil, Sacramentary of Gelasio. Oh, and by the way, this Merovingian is in France, in what is the now territory of France. Let's see more stuff. Just more pictures so you can see. Because I haven't put everything in this PowerPoint, obviously. Okay, Ostrogoths. Ostrogoths were in Italy between centuries 5-6. Stand out King Theodoric the Great. He is Christian but with Roman culture. He wants to renovate the Roman Empire. Renovatio Imperii. Ostrogothic people practices Arianism, and that will suffer damnatio memoriae after the conquest by Justinian. Damnatio memoriae is destroying everything so it will disappear from history. We talked about Saint Apollinaris Novo. Saint Apollinaris Novo appeared in Byzantine art because the mosaics that suffered changes with the Justinian conquest. There is a representation of the city of Ravenna and the Palatium. Theodoric wants a royal ambience like Constantinople. So here, one of the mosaics in there. The mausoleum of Theodoric is very important, synthesis between the Roman and the barbarian, Romanitas and Barbaritas. It is configured like the Paleochristian martyriums, with cubiculum inferius for the sarcophagus of the king and his family, and the cubiculum superius for the feasts. The dome is monolithic. The sculpture is scarce. It is supposed that in the deambulatory of the mausoleum of Theodoric there were statues, but they are disappeared. So I put a few heads that pretend to follow the fashion of the empire. Jewelry is very important, as always in the barbarian people. It is the work of the Theoreutica, use of extravagant and richest pieces of jewelry, technique of the cloisonné, that is to encrust metallic plaques with cells where you put the decorations. Here a couple of the heads. Amalasuntha, Natalarico, and here the very beautiful Ostrogothic jewelry. I have seen this kind of jewelry in person, and this is my favorite. Very good. Okay, more pictures so you can see. Mausoleum of Teodorico. You see the dome, interior. Okay. Langobardic art. Langobards invaded Italy and shared it with the Byzantines till the end of the 8th century. Langobardic architecture hasn't its own characteristic. It takes influences. The main centers are in Pavia, Cividale, and Castelsebrio. A construction I want to name among others, the Church of Saint Mary for its Portas, Church of Saint Mary for its Portas, because it's it is very little but strong. The Tempietto Longobardo is rich in sculptoric decoration. An important construction is the Church Santa Maria for its Portas and Tempietto Longobardo. Sculpture is scarce. You can find it in ivory plaques and also decorating buildings, like this, altar of San Martin de Cividale. About jewelry, the important thing stand out the crowns of Lombardy and of Teodolinda, very beautiful and rich. You can find other jewels like horns to drink and fibulae. So this is the crown of Lombardy, crown of Teodolinda, and different Langobardic jewelry. It is art. Well, one moment, showing more pictures of this. This obviously is rebuilt. That's why I didn't add them. This looks so much rebuilt in the early Renaissance. This one looks ancient. Tempietto Longobardo. Here you see the sculptures. Baptistery. Sculpture. These are diptychs. Jewelry. Here jewelry like bigger. Okay, Iris. Iris art began being influenced by the Celtic culture, seen even in prehistoric works like the New Grants, where you see the Celtic decoration. Christianism came to Ireland in the 5th century and it mixed with the Celtic tradition. An example of this, the Cardonagh cross. The Viking invasions of the 9th century influenced Irish arts. The Cardonagh cross, Kilmacduagh Monastery, and Brixworth Church, some important constructions. The manuscripts are important. You can see an evolution here. First they were more geometric and not very colored, like the Book of Durrow, but later it changed. When they expanded to England and Scotland, and it is more colored, like in the Gospels of Lichfield and the Book of Kells, that even represents a man, presented as Christ, an angel apostle. Jewelry is also important, and you see the Celtic influence as symbol of richness. Book of Durrow, Gospels of Lichfield, Book of Kells. Art the goblets, Tara Broch, some jewelry. Let's go here. Okay. Carolingian art. Renovatio Imperii. When Charlemagne is crowned in year 800, his main ambition is to renovate the Roman Empire. Imperator Romanorum. He is the emperor of the Romans. Islam is a menace. The Carolingian Renaissance refers to renovation in art and culture, renovation of the antiquity. So, some sculptures of Carlemagne. Carlemagne built his capital city in Aachen. He went to create a royal court like Constantinople, Imitatio Imperii. In south is the Assembly and in north is the Palatine Chapel, built similar to the Celestial Jerusalem, that is actually the Aachen Cathedral. In this chapel is the throne of Carlemagne. He even built thermal baths as remembrance of the Roman Empire. The Chrysotriclinio is a lost building where the throne was in the center with the Pantocrator, establishing so a relation between terrene emperor and celestial emperor. In the Palatine Chapel is not so, the throne is in other place. So this is the Aachen Cathedral, and this is the throne of Carlemagne. About the other examples of churches, it is important the Church of St. Gall, that represents the ideal of Carolingian monastery, featured Cluny. Cluny is kind of a church, a Romanesque church. The Church of Fulda is the most important church of Christianism in central Germany in these times. The Church of Corbie stands out by its interior, very radiant and beautiful. Church of St. Gall, Church of Fulda, Church of Corbie. Carolingian crypts are important due that there were made experiments for future Romanesque buildings. Quadrangular and semi-subterranean crypts. Under the presbytery stand out the crypt of St. Germain of Auxerre. This one. Sculpture is scarce, as always, standing out the book covers and ivory plaques like the cover of the Lord's Gospels and the ivory plaque of Remy and Clovis. Here you see. Miniatures are very important in the Carolingian Empire. There were some schools. The Palatine School of Aachen drew the characters in architectonic background. I think this is the view. The characters in architectonic background, standing out Godescalco Gospel and other Gospels. The Edom School represents character in nature and generally alone, standing out the Edom Gospel. The Tours School stand out by a bit color, using gold and silver as in the San Emerano Fratisbona Gospel. Here Godescalco Ada, Palatine School of Aachen, Avon School, Tours School. The workshop of Drogo in the Metz is inspired in mural decorations and Roman mosaics, so the characters are lit as scarce and a lot of vegetation, standing out the Sacramentarium of Drogo. The other artworks that appear are an image of the Lord's Gospels, the cover of the Codex Aureus of San Emeram, and the Lothair crystal, a hand with the tail of Susanna. Here you see. Oh, Carlemagne, more statues, this Aachen, Palatine Chapel, Saint Graal, here more churches, Corbie, Fulda, Saint Riquier, Corbeil, crypts, then sculpture, miniatures. Okay, next one. Ottonian art is one of the great European Prerromanesque artistic movements. It's the successor of the Carolingian art. end of first millennium. After the coronation of Otto I, emerged a renovated idea of empire. Ottonian art was a royal art created to confirm the existence of a vinculation between emperors and Christian rulers like Constantine, Theodoric, or Justinian, and also Carlemagne. The Holy Roman Empire desired of utilization of art as expression of imperial power and to legitimate them as heirs of the ancient Christian Rome. Connection with the Byzantine art too. Emperors were accompanied by military and ecclesiastic people, spolio from Rome and Ravenna. About architecture, the Cathedral of Essen is remarkable by its relics standing out the crosses, but the most important church was Hildesheim, very well decorated. The Cathedral of Spira will be included in the German Romanesque. Cathedral of Essen, this is in the altar. Church of Saint Michel of Hildesheim. About sculpture, it is the same as always, almost inexistent. Only little ivory or bronze plaques with hymns, Christian and such. Doreutica. It is remarkable the crown of the Holy Roman Empire, a delicious work of cloisonné that only Italian artisans formed with Byzantine tradition could have done. This is Hero crucifix. Crown of the Holy Roman Empire, very beautiful. About manuscripts, there are variety. The order in the video of the ones that appear. Otto III Gospel, Codex Egberti, Lectionary of Henry II, and Barber Apocalypse. Visigothic. You see some crosses and swords. Hildesheim, Thormansen. This Spira, it will appear in Romanesque. Sculpture, jewelry, and manuscripts. Visigothic. The Visigothic art is developed in the Iberian Peninsula. Now the last three chapters is going to be in the Iberian Peninsula in Spain. The Visigothic art is developed in the Iberian Peninsula, being the centers Toledo, Tarragona, Córdoba, and Mérida. Use of perched blocks with rope and brand. Use of the horse's-own arch. Rich decoration in walls using geometric and flower motifs. The churches are small and simple. San Pedro de la Nave is great by its decoration. Other churches are important in the Visigothic period, but in general all the same. My feelings about all these churches. I'm going to write this better. Other churches follow the same pattern, and that's all. No. Like San Juan de Baños, so, San Pedro de la Nave, San Juan de Baños, Santa Comba de Bande, and Santa Maria de Melque. The great thing about this is the treasure of Guarrazar, treasury of Receswind and Swintilla, given to the Church of Toledo as offerings. It is composed by 5 crosses and 6 crowns of gold and jewels, to be hanged in the ceiling. The greatest one is the Receswind crown, that forms the sentence Recesvintus Rex offered. You see here the letters. It's like this. I show more pictures. San Pedro de la Nave, San Juan de Baños, Santa Comba de Bande, Santa Maria de Melque. They are very, very similar. Here are other ones that I just keep. The treasure of Guarrazar, so it's like this. Asturian art. When Spain was conquered by the Islamics, only the north remained Christian, and there is developed a different art. That art tries to follow the Visigothic art. Stand out the reign of Ramiro I. Ambience of the Reconquest. Stand out Oviedo. Oviedo is an important center. Use of barrel vault in round or horses or arches. Cover of wood, basilical plant, little churches. Small churches, I suppose, small churches. There are three periods. The first is the Prerromanesque period, and here belongs the churches of San Julián de los Prados, San Tirso, Santa María de Vendones, and San Pedro de Nora. There is influence of the Carolingian art, and Oviedo tries to imitate Toledo and Aachen. San Julián de los Prados, San Tirso de Oviedo, Santa María de Vendones, San Pedro de Nora. The second period is the Ramirense period, with churches like Santa María del Naranco, very important one due to some very important one. San Miguel de Lillo and Santa Cristina de Elena. This period has news as the use of stilted arch and full barrels. Where did I say the important thing? This. I put this up. It is important about it is important to know the ceremony. I suppose I can put this. About Santa Maria del Naranco, it is important to know the ceremony when the king went to war. A religious ceremonial happened here. The king and the bishop were to the cubiculum inferius, and the king took a bath in the liturgic pool. Then he dried up and wore a white tunic, and they went to the cubiculum superior, where the king receives a mantle, labarum, and cross that had to have in the battles against the Muslims. Then the bishop blessed the army. A ritual for the military. I'm going to put this here. Santa María del Naranco and San Miguel de Lillo, Santa Cristina de Elena. The last period is the post-Ramirense period, with churches like San Salvador de Valdedios with Mozarabic influence, due to that the kingdom begins to receive lots of Mozarabs from Al-Andalus to repopulate. San Salvador de Valdedios. About jewelry, the cross of the angels is a nice piece. It is a Greek cross made of wood but covered with gold and precious stones. The Victory Cross is a Latin cross of wood covered with gold. The next two pieces are boxes covered with gold and very well decorated with precious stones. You see, Cross of the Angels, Victory Cross, and box of San Genadio and box of Agatas. And I saw more pictures. San Julián de los Prados, San Tirso de Oviedo, Santa María de Vendones, San Pedro de Nora, Santa María del Naranco, San Miguel de Lillo, Santa Cristina de Elena, San Salvador de Valdedios, and here are some others. Cross of the Angels, Victory Cross, and the boxes. Mozarabic art, the last part. The Mozarabic art rises in the 9th century, as a mix of the Visigothic tradition and the influence of the Muslim art. Popular art, poor and diverse. Use of masonry and brick. Use of horses or arches. There are two kinds, construction in Muslim zone and construction built by Mozarab in Christian zone. The Church of Obastro is a Rupestrian one in Malaga. Castilla y León, this is the zone of the Kingdom of León and the Condado de Castilla, that is Castilla y León. That is Castilla y León, Asturias, Cantabria, and Galicia, these parts of Spain. Stand out the churches of San Miguel de la Escalada, León, Santiago de Peñalba, León, Santa María de Leveña, Cantabria, San Baudelio de Berlanga, Soria, San Cebrián de Mazote, Valladolid, and San Miguel de Celanova, Orense. All these are names of churches. San Miguel de la Escalada, Santiago de Peñalba, Santa María de Leveña. Yeah. The churches of Serrablo of Huesca. There are two theories. If they are Mozarabic of Aragon, Prerromanesque, if they are Mozarabic or Aragon Proto-Romanesque churches. One nave covered with wood ceiling with semicircular apse. Bell towers stand out the great San Pedro de Larrede and others like San Martín de Oliván and San Andrés de Satué. San Martín de Oliván and the San Pedro de Larrede, this is really nice with the stones. Catalonia. The cultural and commercial exchange between Catalonia and Al-Andalus was great in those times. And that propitiated the construction of Mozarabic temples with details as horses or arches, rectangular plant, and mural painting related with Mozarabic codexes. Stand out Sant Quirze de Pedret, Santa Maria de Marquet, and Santa Elena Rhodes. Sant Quirze de Pedret, Santa Maria de Marquet, Santa Elena Rhodes. Special mention for San Juan de la Peña in Aragon, a subterranean monastery of 2 naves with barrel vault and horses or arches of Visigothic tradition. This monastery was an authentic fortress. The cloister has a ceiling. It is very interesting, the decoration, standing out the capital's decoration. More jewelry, the same as always, but with Mozarabic influence. San Juan de la Peña. More pictures. The last images are a series of images of manuscripts. Different manuscripts. Vitae Patrum, Oldest One, compilation of lives of saints. Biblia Vimara, Bible of Cathedral of Leon, Codex Goticus Legionensis, Códice Emilianense, Beato de El Escorial, Beato de Girona, Beato Seurgel, and Beato de Fernando I. Just see the pictures, that is important. And that's all. That's all. So this is finished. The next one will be Prerromanesque art. That will be much longer than this, and it will only be it will only be Romanesque art. It's very long. So I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.